everybody, how you doing? Happy Friday. It is your host, Matty B, Epis Radio. This is episode 36. Alright, a lot to unpack since I've last streamed and since I've last talked to you. A little bit of breaking news before we start the show today, so I've kind of just been settling in here, taking my time. My idea was to stream a little bit earlier, but I decided let me just take it in, all the information like you are getting. I'm sure most of you at work, whatever it is you're doing. If you're watching this in post, this show was originally aired on September 12th at 12:51 Eastern Time. All right, a lot to unpack. Obviously, in the sports realm of things, Week 2 football ahead of us. A lot to talk about there. Green Bay beating Washington Commanders last night pretty convincingly. We'll talk about that. So Washington 1-1 and Green Bay looking solid to start the year, 2-0. Mets, the collapse is on. As a Met fan, I'm definitely going to talk about it. The prodigal son returns to Queens tonight, as Jacob deGrom will be in the building. He will take the Citi Field mound for the first time since leaving us. I seen him take the mound for the last time when he left us. And he returns again. And as fitting as it would be, the Mets are in the midst of a collapse, and Jonah Tong, their new young savior, is also towing the rubber tonight. So we'll see. Hopefully the Mets can get rid of this losing streak that they're on and keep the wild card collapse at bay, for now. But obviously, at the top of the show, we're going to talk Charlie Kirk. They have identified the shooter, and we'll get on with all of that. All right, once again, before we do, before we continue on with the show, please like, comment, follow, subscribe, the whole nine. We appreciate it. All the love. And as always, keep showing up.
Wake up! You can't remember where it was. Has this dream stopped?
I've been known to play mine to a T, but it's time for me to lead, picking dirt right out the cleats. Steep path, roadblocks in the streets, trying to knock me off my feet, cause the devil never sleeps. So I don't sleep too, and trying to breach safes that I didn't have the keys to. We all been victims of trauma we ain't agreed to, but the sun comes after, starting up a new chapter.
Isn't it lovely? I ain't looking back and focus on what's in front of me. Everybody takes a number, but I'm still here luckily. I know that God got me, so I'm in good company.
Alrighty.
Isn't it lovely?
Alright, everybody, what's going on? It is your host, Matty B, Epis Sports Radio. This is episode 36. Going to talk a little bit about baseball, a little bit of football, and of course the Charlie Kirk shooting. Going to get into it, going to address it publicly because I haven't, amongst other things that are going on in this world and in this crazy time that we're living in. But first and foremost, right now, breaking news to start our day here. A suspect in the Charlie Kirk killing is identified by his officials as Tyler Robinson. I'll get his image up for you guys right now. Utah Governor Spencer Cox said that a family member of Robinson's reached out to a family friend who contacted the Washington County Sheriff's Office, leading to his arrest there. So, conservative activist Charlie Kirk, shot in the neck, assassinated, whether it be politically motivated, what have you. Coming just 2 days ago on Wednesday, day before 24th anniversary of 9/11. Ironically enough, you've all seen it by now, all the videos out there, but ironically enough, we see, him talking about mass shootings, and those are being his last words. And next thing you know, horrifying bullet straight to the neck, and this young man's life is taken away from us. Now, with his political views aside and all that, nobody is condoning violence. We certainly don't here on Epis. Nobody, should have to lose their life in that type of fashion. Nobody should ever, should ever be murdered in that light. Especially, on a platform in which, you're just, publicly speaking, exercising your free right in terms of freedom of speech, like Charlie, talked about so very much. He did talk about a lot of other things as well. And now, while I do, sympathize for the family and his kids who, no longer have a father, realistically speaking, I don't, necessarily have a lot of empathy towards, the man himself and what he stood for. Some people are, in a way, celebrating his death, which I don't condone of, either. I'm not, one to just sit here, happy that he died. That's the lowest of low in terms of being a human being, I believe. But, there's a lot to be said about the man of Charlie Kirk. And I've immediately after his death, in the wake of his death, and by the way, I'll pull up the suspected shooters, Tyler Robinson, right there. You have images of him. Does look like very similar to what you were seeing. Some of the images come out of him in the glasses with the hat and the shirt. Definitely looks in line with that. So I'm sure it is. If I have any updates as we go throughout the show, I'll provide them to you. Any listeners out there, here with me today on the 12th of September, if you get any live updates as well, feed them my way. With that being said, with Charlie Kirk, again, this is not a time to celebrate one's assassination, nor should it ever be something to be celebrated. But, this is a man that, wouldn't necessarily care for other, races of human beings if they were to be murdered. And I wholeheartedly believe that he has told you that. This is a man that, said that it's kind of a necessary evil to have a few mass shootings per year just to, sustain the ability to, bear arms, And as much as I, agree with bearing arms, I'm definitely pro-gun, and I remain pro-gun. The irony of this all, again, he's talking, he's being questioned about mass shootings. It first started with a transgender, question about how many transgender people, had caused mass shootings over the, I believe, year or in their history, and Charlie had immediately came back with too much, and then he was questioned about more in regards to mass shootings, and then next thing you know, boom, bullet to the neck. I'm not going to pull up the video for you guys in regards to all that. Not really necessary. All of you have seen it, I'm sure. It's just not, just not something I think needs to be promoted anymore, or if ever, like the fact that this is so readily accessible is kind of insane in itself, that, we're able to see it in real time. I mean, a lot of the major news outlets, they won't show you the shot to the neck per se, but they'll show you the moment leading up to it, and they'll either freeze frame the video and skip ahead, or black it out. But even seeing the reaction post gunshot and just the crowds fleeing, it's traumatizing. It's just absolutely something nobody should ever have to go through. For the Kirk family, kids in attendance, seeing their father murdered like that again. Nobody's condoning this. Immediately, the presidency makes a statement later that day, blaming the far left, and I think this is a problem in this country, in this divisiveness, and and this whole narrative. You're already seeing it now. You're seeing an outpouring of tweets and just anger and publicized anger towards the far left or just Democrats in general. And, listen, while, I teeter on the side of liberal and Democrat. I don't really, have an affiliation per se, but, a lot of my views coincide with liberal or democratic views. But I'm always open, to a conservative viewpoint as well if it made sense, So I guess that's where the independent in me lies. But the fact that people are so quick to jump to these conclusions as the far left and things like that, that's as a result of this. Our own president getting on the grandest of stages and telling you right, to your face that this is due to far left rhetoric and kind of talking about the far left, blaming fascism and Nazism and all that. That's like before we have any answers, before we know anything about this shooter, who he was, where he comes from, the motive. I mean, we have no idea. And that's why it leads to all these conspiracy theories, this and that. It's just not something that should be done so lightly. Then you have the question mark of more conspiracies, whether or not the statement by Trump that was released on TV was even genuine. I'm hearing a lot of people debunk it in regards to it being an AI generated video. There was a slight glitch early on in the video of his hands pulling up. I'll have that pulled up for you guys in post edit. Where his hands are kind of like twitching upwards. It doesn't seem natural, and for the majority of the video, he doesn't move his hands, things like that. Did look a bit AI generated, albeit I wouldn't be surprised if there's a lot of post edit, there's a lot of fluffing in a lot of some of these statements that they're releasing with Donald. I at this point I don't really care. I just assume a lot of what we're seeing is disingenuous. But again, the rhetoric that it's because of far left extremism is just unacceptable, and it doesn't help in creating a lack of divisiveness in this country, and it's the problem that we have now. But again, this is a guy that literally Charlie Kirk, who said that signing the Civil Rights Act was a problem. This is a guy that says that if he sees a black pilot, that he would immediately question their credentials. And that goes with any type of profession for a black person. I mean, that's insane. When you spew this type of hatred, when you wear that red hat, that basically, is to a certain, group of people, to a vast majority outside of being white, is a symbolism of hate. I know some of you may not see it like that. And, just the words itself, "Make America Great Again." Charlie Kirk literally on record for saying that blacks were better off during slavery before 1940. That's insane. It's a guy who wholeheartedly believes that. That's insane. I'm sorry. I'm not going to celebrate. Not celebrate. I'm using the wrong term there. Definitely not going to celebrate a man's death, but I'm not going to honor a man's death and turn him into a martyr for spewing this type of hatred. I'm not. I may be a small minority in feeling that way, but I'm sorry. I have a lot of lot of friends that are not white. My own wife is Chinese. I mean, a lot of my best friends black. My co-host black. I can't stand for that type of hatred and honestly come up here and mourn the loss of a man that spew this. I get it, you say what you want about his platform, but there's a lot to be said about that too. I think you argue, this man, it's rooted in religion. A lot of what he spews. He goes to these college campuses and really goes after some vulnerable college kids. A lot of the times, and his forms of debate never comes from a genuine place, in my opinion. It's always to prove you wrong and never for him to be proven right. I don't think in any of those, arguments have you ever seen him concede. You know what I'm saying? Or very rarely, often, if ever. And in his views, I'm sorry, I could get into each and every one of his views and I guess, expose what it is, my beliefs are in. But there's just, in terms of women's rights, I mean, his viewpoints on women and how they should, just forget about education and, marry young and, become a housewife. And that's your role as a woman. And, being, and leaving it up to the men to be the breadwinners and, the alpha males and, taking care of that side of things and all that. I don't agree with it. In fact, I even think it should be opposite at sometimes in this day and age. Why can't the women, be the breadwinner of the family, things like that. I believe in a husband being a house, a house husband or a housewife. There's nothing wrong with that, man. Anybody that would disagree, I would question, who you are as a person. I'm sorry. I get this whole alpha male bullshit. I'm sorry. It's just not me. You call me a beta. You could call me weak and soft and all that and all you want. I could care less. Because I think, you could have it both ways. But, to have those extremist views. I mean, he literally said if his daughter would be raped that he would keep, that he would end up having her bear that child. I mean, that's insane. That's it. I'm sorry. I don't, I get it to a certain point. The abortion conversation gets very intricate and very, very tough. Mob, what's going on, man? I'm sorry. I'm like all in my my rant over here. Thank you for joining me, Mob, today. How you doing, bro? It's been a while since I talked to you, my man. My wife is the breadwinner in my house, always has been. It's my dream to be a stay-at-home husband. Bro, I'm with you, man. Now, again, like I just said, people could call us soft for that. People call us the beta, whatever, what have you. I don't, whatever. That's just your insecurities coming to light, in my opinion. You know what I'm saying? I don't see anything wrong with it. Right now, in my family dynamic, my wife, I think now, based on the amount of hours I work, does make more money than me. So technically she's the breadwinner as well. But I do work, she's just pulling in a little bit more because I work less hours. She doesn't make more money than me hourly. But because I work less hours, she is technically the breadwinner. So, is there any shame in that? Absolutely not. Is there, but, this, and listen, I'm not saying there's any shame in a woman wanting to be a housewife and wanting to have that, no doubt. If that's what you choose, then that's what you choose. But I've literally watched videos on this guy now, on Charlie Kirk, convincing women to don't waste your time or, utilize college as an avenue for dating and finding a husband as opposed to using it as an avenue for improving your education and doing something, with yourself other than being a housewife and that being your true role as a woman in this world. And I just, wholeheartedly disagree with it. Again, everything else and all his other stances, I'm sorry. It's a form of spewing hatred, and to say that black people are better off in slavery times because there's been a rise in crime rate in post-slavery is a terrible argument in terms of why justifying the fact that there should be slave ownership. But this is the man that we're crying over. This is the man that's being honored in baseball stadiums and arenas and things like that. I don't know. I don't know, and the same man that has changed his position on Martin Luther King, who essentially died the same way he did, just exercising his freedom of speech and using his platform for the, albeit for Martin Luther King, definitely for the betterment of society. I don't know for Charlie Kirk if that necessarily applies. But he does ironically die in the same way. Gets assassinated the whole nine. And, the way he would want it, essentially, right? Charlie Kirk admitted it. He said, again, paraphrasing, that it's a necessary evil that, we have some mass shootings a year just, to the bare, the right to a weapon. It's a shame nobody should lose their life, but man, I don't look at this guy in the same light as a Martin Luther King, and I'm not necessarily gonna paint a picture up here and view him as a martyr when a lot of those things are said. I mean, it's a far right extremist who definitely, I in my opinion, I could care less about his form of debate, but was not looking out for the betterment of society, and that's just it. I'm sorry. We could debate about it. You could come up here, you could come up in the comments, and we could talk about it. Sure. But I have a daughter myself, man. I look at her rights and her being an independent woman, and just her being able to do something in this world. I don't confine her to being a housewife, and I don't, I'm not gonna, instill those misogynistic ideologies upon her. It's not right. And if you condone it, I'm sorry, I have to question your integrity as a person and who you are, and how you value other human beings. I mean, there's so much uproar with all of this. Let's go back to the assassination of the, I believe the Democratic senators or House speakers. I forget exactly. I'll try to look it up real quick, but it was a couple of months ago now, right? 6 months ago. And the coverage about that went just up and out the window real quick. Just like, where was the huge uproar about that? I mean, these people murdered, right in their homes. This guy, if at least if anything, was right out in the public. I mean, somebody, went to go and find these people in their homes and they just kill them. Why is there not huge uproar about that? Why are we not, having any issue with that? Where's the conversation? Mass shootings. There was a mass shooting the same day in Colorado. While all this is going on. I don't know, and and that was kind of swept up under the rug with everything that was going on. But I gotta check real quick if there was any people that died from that shooting. We've had multiple mass shootings already to start this school year. It's insane. But yet, and we're supposed to stand up here and talk about it, and then the far right would get crazy and uproar over the Ukrainian girl, and albeit because the whole situation with the Ukrainian girl, I believe it was North Carolina, that was stabbed to death by a black male. Of course they're gonna polarize that and use that as a prime example as to what's going on, and him being a career criminal, and the idea, and point to this criminal system and needing reform, the whole nine. I get it, and nobody's discounting that, but when it's on the other side of things, you didn't do this for George Floyd. You didn't do it for a lot of other black victims in America that have been murdered through, whether it be through, police force or just, brutally murdered out in the streets. I mean, it's, the conversations are not the same oftentimes. It's the way it's depicted in the media, totally different. all of a sudden we should mourn, Charlie, but, forget about everybody else. You know what I'm saying? It's not the same. I'm going to address some of the comments right here. It's hard to be a single income household nowadays. We live in a wild time, dude. Yeah, Mob. Absolutely, man. Listen, and nowadays, it's really tough to, live in a single income household. But a lot of these college campuses in which he's speaking to are not, those of big cities, right? Or at least, big cities here, on the East and West Coast. It's a lot of, middle America, towns and areas where, cost of living is definitely cheaper, is definitely down, and maybe it's a lot more accessible for a family to live on a one income household, for the family in those areas. For here, it's almost impossible. Even where you're at, bro, in Delaware, it's insane. It's still relatively expensive. So. Here in New York, here in Queens especially, it's through the roof. Taxes alone paying $12,000 a month. That's almost, that's a good chunk of the salary right there. You know what I'm saying? That's insane. I did want to find, just to refresh my memory, those Democratic, was it Democratic speakers? Was it Minnesota? Yeah. It was Minnesota, right? Sorry, Minnesota. Let's see. Yeah, June 16th. Let's see. Vance Bolter, 57, of Green Island, Minnesota, has been charged by federal complaint with stalking and murdering Minnesota House of Representatives Speaker Emerita Melissa Hortman and her husband, in addition to stalking and shooting Minnesota State Senator John Hoffman and his wife. According to court documents, in the early morning hours of June 14, 2025, Vance Luther Bolter put into an effect a calculated plan to inflict fear and violence upon Minnesota elected officials and their families. Bolter equipped himself with firearms and body armor, disguised himself as a law enforcement officer, and drove to the home of Senator Hoffman. Bolter knocked on the door repeatedly, claiming to be a police officer. Shortly after the Hoffmans opened the door, they were alarmed to realize Bolter was wearing a face mask. The Hoffmans tried to close the door on Bolter, but Bolter reportedly shot both Senator and Mrs. Hoffman. The horrific targeted murderers are Minnesota House Speaker Melissa Hortman and her husband Mark Hortman, as well as the shooting of Minnesota State Senator John Hoffman and his wife Yvette Hoffman, have shocked the nation and united us in grief, said Attorney General Pamela Bondi. So there you go. That was just to refresh the memories. Where was the big, uproar when all that, takes place? Why don't we, Democrats don't immediately point to the far right and say, oh, this is, as a result of them. We try, look at it a little bit more rationally. But the second, something happens that, remotely fits the narrative that, hey, it's the far left, it's the Democrats, it's their rhetoric is causing all these issues. The second there is even a chance to throw that type of rhetoric around, speaking of rhetoric, it's thrown and it's put out there, and I just simply I can't get behind it. I don't agree. It's come on, I'm looking up details of the Colorado mass shooting as well. I want to, because with everything going on, I myself didn't even get all the details on what happened there. Denver area high school shooting, suspect was radicalized. Let's see, CNN reporting on it. Suspect identified on Thursday as a 16-year-old Desmond Holly, was thwarted by locked classroom doors, preventing further tragedy. Holly was taken to the hospital with self-inflicted gunshot wound and later died. Okay. I'm not seeing here. Were there any victims? What? What? This is crazy. So, this is the 47th shooting that took place at a school in the United States so far this year. 24 of which were on college campuses and 23 on K to 12 school grounds. That's absurd. Are you kidding? And then ironically, this guy, Charlie Kirk, gets shot at an event at Utah Valley University while literally his last words being a questioning about mass shootings. I mean, the irony, man. But again, nobody is condoning this act of violence. Let that be clear. I'm certainly not condoning here on Epis. You know, this is not the right way to do things. It's not the answer, because in retrospect, this is only gonna escalate the violence on both sides. I'm already seeing it. It's a town, I believe. Mooncakes, if you're there in the chat. Somewhere in Long Island, I seen a video last night. There was a neo-Nazi group organizing, I believe, in Nassau County, south by the water, down there. You know, talking about this is war. That we're at war with the far left, with the Democrats. That, you know, and they're just spewing all this hatred and rhetoric around. Talk about, you know, spewing the wrong rhetoric, and you know, our lovely Donald Trump, you know, Mr. 47, you know, talking about you know, the far left rhetoric, you know, causing all this. It's that type of rhetoric that is going to inflict more hatred, more pain on people, and more violence. And you know, we can't accept this. This is not okay. That's why I feel the need to just come up here and at least use my platform to speak about it, because I don't know what else to do personally. This is a crazy time we're living in, and you know, a part of me just doesn't know, you know, what else to do, but other than, you know, come on here and use my, you know, exercise my freedom of speech and bring light to it. But this is not the answer. You know, I don't know who they feel they need to be at war with. You know, is this kid right here, Tyler Robinson, the suspect in the Charlie Kirk shooting? Is he a far left extremist? Potentially. You know, even if he is, what if he is? Does that mean you're at war with all the Democrats in the world? Does that mean you're just going to take to the streets and start shooting people? Are you going to go after people of color and you know, start a civil war? Sure, I don't know. Is that going to be the answer to all this? I don't see how. You know, you look at everything else that's going on in the world right now, and there's so much other countries, you know, rising up, fighting their own governments, taking over. There's genocide as we speak as well. What are we doing, man? What are we really doing here? What's going on? Because, you know, how are we going to move on from this? Because you already see, I mean, Trump, again, you know, just silently moving the National Guard in another American city. Let me find out exactly where again. There's so much, I can't keep track. Trump says National Guard. Let's see. Yeah, National Guard is Chicago for now. Okay. Oh, and then Memphis as well. Right, got it. Okay. Jesus Christ. Look, I'm just reading this alone. I'm just quick Google stuff. Trump scraps plans to send National Guard to Chicago for now. Okay. Trump says National Guard will deploy to Memphis next, sidestepping Chicago for now. All right, so we're going to Memphis with the National Guard. I mean, it just seems, and then, like, these types of things too, it gets escalated because of this just shooting. It's gonna lead down the MAGA agenda and the narrative of, now, well, there's justification for all of this. We need this. We need to prevent the uprising and protect our people and all that. I fear for the American people that are not, white. I feel, I'm not on that side. I'm really not, and I know. Even me, speaking about this is potentially putting me at jeopardy. I mean, you've heard about it. You talked about it. They said they're going to look at everybody, social media platforms, things like that. That if you are talking against us, we're going to monitor. We're going to look out for you. I've had my issues on YouTube promoting some past episodes about talking with Trump and all that. So believe me, they the algorithms, they're out there, they're monitoring it. I'm putting myself at risk. Tass, what's going on, man? I love hearing your voice on this, man. The times we live in are crazy. Yeah, man, I appreciate that. This is a little bit tough for me to talk about, no doubt. I've kind of, and I didn't even think I would spend this much time on it, but yeah, it's definitely something that is deserving of it, and it needs to be talked about. I didn't want to be quick on, the Epis platform and just come out and make a knee-jerk statement. Kind of wanted to get some of the details, and obviously, hearing the breaking news today that they now got the shooter. It doesn't really change my viewpoint on the whole Kirk assassination, but I got to be mindful of all my people. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm very pro-gay rights, the whole nine too. So Charlie Kirk, very anti-gay. Very anti-LGBTQ. The whole nine, and it along with some other viewpoints and things like that I mentioned earlier in the show. Against civil rights movement. Thinks slavery should still exist, the whole nine. I mean, I'm very surprised at the overwhelming outcry for this man's death. It's weird to me. Like tonight, I'm going to Citi Field. I'm gonna go see Jacob DeGrom, his return to Citi Field for the first time. Very excited about this, but a part of me is also a little nervous, to be honest with you. And then because for one, the friend that I'm going with, he's not white, person of color, right? Great friend of mine, the whole nine. Definitely has some conservative views, no doubt, but is independent and liberal in some aspects as well. Good guy. If I didn't feel like he was a good egg, I wouldn't hang with him either. But me, white man, him, person of color, going to a game. There's going to be a lot of patriotism. This is the first game that the Mets are. Excuse me. This is the first game that the Mets are playing. Since at home, since the Charlie Kirk shooting. I'm interested to see if they are gonna do a little tribute for Charlie Kirk, as did the Yankees. Was it not last night, but 2 nights ago, because the Yankees did play that day. And listen, all they did was, it's not like they gave the guy a whole montage, this and that. Put his images up, gave him a moment of silence. Okay, even the whole moment of silence thing for me is a bit uncomfortable. I have to agree. Or I have to just say that. I just do. It's just... Like, I don't know if I could clap for a moment of silence. Again, I have sympathy for the family, for the, victim's family, for his children that are left behind. I'm sympathetic towards that. Nobody should have to go through life without their father. Believe me, I know it all too well. With that being said, I don't necessarily look at that guy like he's a great father based on some of the extremist far-right views that he had in regards to women and women's rights. I'm sorry. Like, if you know, I don't know. This is a guy that's raising a daughter and telling her, you know, screw education. You know, black people are better off in slavery. You know, you should always, forever question a black person's integrity and credentials the second you see them in a position of power. Because that's not inherently racist. Okay? Oh, honey, don't worry about if you get raped, you know, at the age of, you know, whatever, 15, you know, we're gonna help you through it and you know, raised a baby, it'll be okay. Okay. You know, don't consider ever getting, you know, an education because it's not really necessary. Women, you know, don't really belong in a power position in this, you know, political climate or in any, you know, corporate or, you know, working class climate. You know, just forget about all that. Be a housewife, cook the food, clean the dishes, raise the kids, and, you know, please me every now and then, because I'm sure that's a part of it too. If you believe in that, if you agree with that, okay. Maybe I'm not for you, you're not for me. Maybe, you know, we should just go our separate ways. We certainly don't need to get violent over it. You know, that would be, you know, ironic in itself, you know, this, you know, but seems like the far right is playing that game, and seems like the far right is taking that, position in terms of things, and I'm sorry, I just, you know, I can't go down that road, but I'm sure this is going to be something that is ongoing because, you know, every day it's something new. Every day there's something going on, and as you know, I was throwing out some of the numbers. Every day is almost another mass shooting. Every day is, you know, some sort of politician is being sought after violently or, you know, indirectly, violently through, you know, verbal form or whatever it is. You know, the divisiveness in this country is such a problem, and it starts at the top. You know, when our own president addresses the whole nation and immediately attacks a certain party, a certain identity of people, without having any credibility towards those types of claims, well, then you wonder why we're in a position we are as a people, and how divided we are as a nation, and in terms of, you know, just politics, beliefs, the whole nine. You know, you got the whole Israel prime minister going up, you know, and talking about Charlie Kirk, and, you know, mentioning him. I mean, come on, really? Really? Like, that's a show in itself, you know. This guy's committing genocide over here, but he's being sympathetic towards Charlie Kirk. All right, I've had enough, you know. That's enough for me. All right. Well, I think that's about it for me in terms of that, you know, topic. About on the politics, play a little music for you guys. All right, here, a little chill. We'll try to transition a little bit here, okay, on this beautiful, I'm gonna say it's a happy Friday. I know that's an hour of intense politics. You know, if you're watching us live here on September 12th, 1:30 Eastern Time, that's a very intense. If you're watching it in post, appreciate you as always. Keep showing up. We are going to switch to some sports. All right, if anybody's here with me, let me know what you've been watching. What's captured your eyes? Obviously, week 2 football ahead of us. Gonna maybe dive a little deep into some of those matchups. I will be giving my 4-game predictions this week, and I will also give W's predictions. I believe I went 2 for 4 last week, and W went 1 for 4, I believe. So I gotta check. But week 2 did kick off yesterday with Green Bay and Washington Commanders. Ended up being a Green Bay victory. We'll talk a little bit about that. We're going to talk about the Metsies, the Yankees, the whole nine. All right, we're back. Epis Sports Radio, episode 36. Happy Friday to you all. A little bit of a football Friday. All right. As for our predictions, last week Dub and I ended up winning that one. Not too bad. I'll take it. 2 for 4. He went 1 for 4 in terms of the picks. I'll break that down a little bit for you. Obviously, if you're coming to us today, this is originally aired at September 12th, 1:46 Eastern now. If you're watching in post, we appreciate you. Keep on showing up. Bit of breaking news, and we talked about that off the top of the show. They found the shooter in regards to the Charlie Kirk assassination. Tyler Robinson was detained in the Utah governor's office, and they believe to have got their guy in a multi-day manhunt. The federal authorities have figured out who it is, and they've got him. A lot of imagery, a lot of videos on him. I believe he was about 140 something yards away at the time of the shooting. They have multiple videos that day of people having this guy on the roof, which is always interesting to me. In retrospect, like how did this all happen? How was it? Seemingly, in plain sight at times. But, high-powered rifle, taken out from that range, in terms of, for a sniper, that's an easy range to get it done. And, I was literally watching a video of, ex-sniper, ex-military man, talking about how you can choose from 300 yards out. You could choose the left nostril or the right nostril, left nostril. Doesn't matter, so just shame what happened again. My heart and condolences goes to the family, the Kirk family, and his kids. No child again should have to go through life without a father. Again, I have my viewpoints on the man himself, and if you just getting back with us, go check it out and, go see what I have to say in regards to all that. All right, moving on to the sports realm of things. Okay, because we got a big action-packed week 2 of football ahead of us. And, of course, in terms of the baseball world, things are getting tight. All right, Mets just 15 games away to end their season, and they're holding on to a 1.5 game lead in the wild card. It is a problem. Cincinnati and San Francisco on their necks. Not good there. Yankees had Donald Trump in attendance yesterday, and smashing victory for them. Pretty status quo Yankee victory for them. Smashing the home runs. Judge with 2 home runs, the whole 9. Getting that done. Cam Schlittler looking great on the mound yet again. Dominant performance against a great Detroit team. Obviously the offense has taken a back seat a little bit in the second half of the year for Detroit, but especially for certain guys like Javi Baez, who just had that stellar first half, but has really fallen off in the second half. So we'll get all into that. Of course, I'm a little, excited about DeGrom's return to Citi Field tonight. Just going to be insane. Electric atmosphere. It better be. It could turn really negative really quick. Especially if DeGrom goes like 7 or 8 innings, like shutout. And 10 strikeouts, just completely dominates the Mets. And yet it leads to another loss. And we could be sitting a half game up on the wild card. That would just be, that'd be terrible, So, hopefully that doesn't happen. you know, but yeah, you know, it's that's totally a possibility for tonight. So I'm trying to find, let's see, I'm trying to find some football theme music to get us going in terms of this football segment. Let's see if I can find some right here. Do I like this? Do I like this? Come on now. Nope. That's not what I wanted. Alright. I'm trying to find like appropriate, like it's that old school football music, man. I can't. I forget exactly when. Let's see. Yeah, like they. There you go. I don't know if I get copyrighted for this. I don't own the copyright to this music. Let's go. There you go. Alright. See, now this puts me in the mood for football. Alright. It's like a nice crisp day outside. It's like 60 degrees. Football time. Alright. Where's my football theme over here? Let's bring that up. Beautiful. Alright, ladies and gentlemen. Week 2. Yes! This is exactly what I was looking for. Alright. Now I'm hyped for this. Alright, let's go. Alright, so week 2 kicked off yesterday. Green Bay, Washington Commanders. Pull the stats up for you there. Easy 27-18 victory for the Green Bay Packers. Interesting way to start this game. Pack were moving the ball, looking real good, looking like they great pass from Love right into the end zone. Gets taken away from a penalty, I believe holding it was, for the right tackle on Green Bay, young rookie right tackle, and touchdown gets taken away. They end up trying to go for it on 4th and 2. Did I just kill all the music? They end up trying going for it on 4th and 2, but to no avail. Ball gets turned over. Commanders don't do anything with it. Quick drive ending for them. Green Bay getting back to ball and doing what they do best and move the ball yet again. Take a lot of time off the clock, a lot of time possession in the first half, or just overall in this game. I'll look real quick for the overall time possession, but I know Washington started the game more in the end there. Yeah, Washington 27 minutes time possession, Green Bay 32. But in that first half, it was really going away to the Green Bay Packers. They were really holding the ball and doing their thing. A nice little mix of run and pass. Washington really couldn't do much. You know, oh, I got this background over here. I don't want this. What is this nonsense? Alright. This is the Autumn Wind song now. No, let's go back to this one. Alright, there you go. I don't want that other music. Oh, yeah. I gotta make sure I don't get taken down for copyright on it. Alright, seems good for now. Alright, but Green Bay, looking all that dominant. Washington really couldn't get anything going in this game. Alright, the pocket kept on collapsing on the young quarterback, and it just seemed to me like Daniels couldn't really get a groove going. He was sacked 4 times last night. You know, did have to end up getting 2 touchdowns, obviously, you know, that one late. You know, interceptions, none on a day. 24 for 42, though. You know, not really going to get it done. Jordan Love, though, almost just shy of 300 yards, 19 for 31. You know, definitely had to make some big throws. Definitely, you know, had more protection for him last night than Daniels did. Did get sacked twice. But all in all, it was very good. It was moving the ball. It did what he had to do. Daniels, it just seemed, sporadic. That line wasn't holding at times. And, it was up to him, to either make a quick move or, just get rid of the ball quick. He was trying to utilize his legs, but that pocket collapsed so hard around him that he really couldn't navigate his way out and, find a way to get out of that. So, it put a lot of pressure on him. These drives were very quick for them last night. It was only until the fourth is when they really started to score. Obviously, both touchdowns coming in the fourth quarter for them late in garbage time. They did cut it to 17-10, and that's what gave them hope at that point. But, to no avail. Green Bay just continued to pull away, did what they had to do. Some other some notables in that. Tucker Kraft with the touchdown, 6 receptions, 124. There goes that for damn song again. Here we go. Gotta get that one back. I gotta remember when it breaks out. I should just put this on repeat. Can I do that? I think I can do that. Loop playlist. Now, I wanna repeat this. I love it, everybody. I'm sorry. How do I repeat this, man? I just want to repeat this, guy. Alright, that's okay. That'll be the last time I play this. But, like I said, Tucker Kraft, 6 receptions, 124 yards, 20 average per carry, and a 57 long, 7 targets for him. So he was really dialed in, doing his thing to hit that connection with him. And Love really worked out for them. Ertz doing all that he can in that one, 64 yards. McLaurin only 48 yards for Washington. I believe, though, even for McLaurin, I believe that over-under was around that 40-yard mark, if I'm not correct. Deebo Samuel, 44 yards, 7 receptions, 12 long for him, 8 targets on the night. And that was really it. That was the receiving core, offense for them. No fumbles from either team, no interceptions. So both teams, not losing by way of the turnover, but both teams did miss a couple of kicks. A couple of we had 2 doinkers in the game as well. That's kind of not something you want to see. Albeit some tough attempts, some long attempts there, but just was not the type of game you were looking for if you're a fan of Washington. Obviously, Green Bay with that defense, Micah Parsons, doing his thing, really looking like he's healthy and going to be effective. This Green Bay team, man, it looks dangerous. I want to see a little bit more from their offense, but it almost seemed like they were just kind of not being too aggressive at times, but at times it seemed awfully calculated as well. So they just seemed like a better team than Washington Commanders overall, and it was definitely a good way to start the season for them. So 2-0 as the Commanders move to 1-1. All right, in terms of our, I said I wouldn't do it, and then I let the music come back. Here we go, the classic battle. All right. So in terms of W and I's picks for last week, we will give you this week 2 picks as well. W's already given mine. He's not here with us right now. He's not able to be on the show at the moment. I was seeing if he could come on real quick and just give us his picks, but it doesn't seem like that's going to be possible, so I'll give those picks for you. All right, if you're interested, in week 1, we each picked 4 games. I came out on top, winning 2 of 4, and W ended up getting 1 of 4. The games in which I won was Tampa Bay, Bucks, and Atlanta. Bucks ended up covering -1.5, and the Jets. And that was a sliver of a win right there for the Bucks, but ended up doing it. The Jets ended up covering as well. They lost to the Steelers, but they covered the 3. So I came away with that victory. Tough loss for my Jets. Not happy about that, obviously, especially when Fields and this offense was finally moving, looking good. Of course, it's a jet-like way with penalties and turnovers and just sloppiness down the stretch there, leading to a victory for the Pittsburgh Steelers and Aaron Rodgers. The Chiefs game, I believe Dub and I both lost that one. We had Chiefs -3.5. They did not cover. Chargers ended up taking care of business in the opening game of the season. All right. Bucks. W did get that pick. He did have. He had Bucks -1 against the Falcons, so he wins as well in that pursuit. So that was his one win of the week. He lost Patriots -2.5 and the Raiders. Patriots versus the Raiders. The Patriots -2.5. Raiders came out on top on that one. Ravens. Again, that was like a pick'em game. We were talking about it. Ravens seemingly had that game in hand. W had the Ravens in this one, -1. And they had this game. It was historic at this point. We talked about it, so much, not here on Epis, but, I mean, you guys have seen it. You've heard about it. It's been everywhere. It was just the craziest game of the week. Bills with the miraculous comeback. I believe they were down, 42-25. Just a couple of minutes to go late in the fourth. And then just, the magic of Josh Allen and those Bills. And it gives you hope, again, for the Bill fan, that, this could be our year. But it kind of scares me a little bit, too, for them. Because it just, this is very typical of them. They, have this type of offensive shootout and do all this. Man, you just get worried a little bit because you can't, it's not sustainable, especially come playoff time. I think, when it comes to the playoffs, defense is what wins, and you just cannot be winning games like this. So it's going to be interesting to see how the Bills go forward, but a big win for them. And for W, unfortunately, he gets slided a little bit, and the Ravens don't cover the -1 as they lose by 1. Am I wrong on the 42-25? Well, was it 40-25? I believe it was 40-25. Yeah, exactly, because they ended up losing 41-40, I believe. Yes. I'll say Bills versus Ravens. Pretty sure that was the score there. Yeah, 41-40. Right. Yeah, so that made sense. Yeah, 22 points for the Bills in that fourth quarter. They outscored them 22-6 in that fourth quarter. That's insane. All right, just absurd comeback right there for the Bills. I still think the Ravens are going to be difficult to beat. I believe, let me double check again, quote myself on it, but I did have I believe the Ravens to win the Super Bowl this year. That was my pick. Come on, man. Where is it? Let's see. I got the wild card right here. Are right down the Super Bowl? I am loving this Super Bowl, this NFL music right here. Where's my Super Bowl predictions? Do I have them? Oh, not here. Alright, I gotta write them down then. Definitely gotta go back and double check then. I thought I wrote them down. I have all the other divisional predictions and the AFC wild card, but I didn't do that. And hold on, we're gonna make another page for W's picks going forward and mine as well. Alright. Oh, this is a good one. Let's see. There you go. Good music here for this segment. Alright. Again, thank you for joining us today. If you're watching in post, this show originally aired on September 12th, noonish, as at this point in the show, it's now 2:05 Eastern Time, so thank you for joining us. And if you're watching in post, please like, comment, share, subscribe, the whole nine. Really appreciate it. And just tell us where you're coming from. Tell us your predictions, what you like about the football season going forward as we're talking a little football. If there's anything else you want us to talk about, please let us know in the comments. We appreciate it. Just keep it clean and casual, as always. All right. Picks. Since we don't have Dub here, let me just check real quick the phone. Make sure that Dub... Yeah. Yeah, no update from him there. Alright. Alright, so Dub sent me his picks for his peaks. Dub sent me his peaks. As we're talking a little football, we're going to end the show with a little baseball. I'm going to talk Mets. I'm going to talk to Grom before his outing, before his return tonight. Big game for the Mets, okay? And although I'm excited to see my boy return, the prodigal son, all right? But I need a Mets victory tonight. Just need it. I'm going to be in attendance. I'm going to be witnessing every second. But it's got to happen, man. It's just got to happen. All right. I'm just pulling up this week's games for us in the NFL Week 2. As I said, we talked about it. Green Bay, 27-18 victory over the Washington Commanders as they take a 2-0 lead in the standings this year. Other teams on the docket for this week. Tennessee Titans going up against the Rams at home. They're down. They lost on week 1, so they're looking to return and start the season to 500 and get the ball rolling for them. We can only hope for their sake that is the case. Jacksonville on the road against Cincinnati. That's at 1 o'clock. These are the 1 o'clock games for you. All right. 2 teams that won in week 1. Let's see. Should be a pretty good matchup. That might be one of my picks. I'm going to be picking my 4 on the fly for you right here in real time. I'll give W picks first, and then we'll be talking about his. I didn't want this song. I wanted the other one. There you go. Da-dum. Da-dum. All right. So you got Rams, Tennessee. You got Jacksonville, Cincinnati. You got Baltimore and Cleveland. Now, Baltimore, we were just talking about it. The terrible loss. This should be an easy win for them. You know, they're not playing the Bills this time around, man. It's Cleveland. They don't look good. Interesting news about Cleveland. You know, Shador has been moved down to no reps in practice. The turmoil in Cleveland already beginning with Tam. It's a shame, man. It looks like he's really being outed by the league. But hey, you know, at this point, there must be an obvious reason for it. You know, I think a lot of owners were told not to draft this guy, and I think his ego has a lot to do with it. I don't know if it has a lot to do with his dad per se. Maybe the way his dad, you know, raised him, if anything. But, you know, it just seems to me like this guy is not going to really have an opportunity in this league, or at least right now with this team. Maybe he gets released from Cleveland. At this point, that's seeming like it's going to be the case, right? Because he's not, you know, if he's not getting any reps, why would he even stay at this point? At least you can go somewhere else. He's good enough. He has a talent good enough to be a third string, second string quarterback on a serviceable team right now. I think he could go and give you some valuable time, but he needs to have a chance. He needs to be given an opportunity. Clearly not being given the opportunity here. Needless to say, Cleveland overall not a good team. Not going to do that well this year. Baltimore should smack them around this week. I'll take a look at the point spread for that game and see if that'll be one of my picks. But that's a 1 o'clock game. Jets, Buffalo. Man, I don't even want to look at the spread just yet. That's another one we're going to look at. You know what? That one I might have to look at. Because, man, I don't see how the Jets are favored in this game. Already the matchup predictor on ESPN Analytics is giving Bills 64.5 prediction to win over the Jets 35 and 2 point 0.2% prediction to win. So definitely a lot of concerns there, for the Jets. What are we at? Yeah, 7.5. 7.5 is the open, and that's ESPN Bet Sportsbook. I'll just go with them for the sake of it as I'm looking at it right here. Okay, so 7.5. I kind of like that. I think Dubby, let me go through Dub's picks real quick, and then we'll go over some of the other games that are happening. Dub's got Jets 6.5, and as we're just talking about that, for week 2, the Jets versus the Bills. Here on it, I have ESPN bets. It's saying minus and 7.5 for the Bills. Jets, W's got at plus 6.5. So I'm going to go with that. I'm going to take the 7.5. How about that? I think the Jets could hang around in this game. At the very least, maybe they just lose by a touchdown. It could get ugly. It could go the other way. I could see at some point, a turnover or two late, and the Bills just run away. Nice little 14, 17-point lead. And just the Jets' offense gets demoralized because of it. I could see that happening. I don't see a way they win this game. I just don't. I don't know. After the collapse in week 1, I just don't see it. But do I like them covering the points? I do. Maybe. They prevent the Bills from going off offensively in this game. They hold them to, maybe less than 30 points, 27, 21 even, something like that. They keep it relatively low, and they can hang around, maybe lose 21-17, 24-17, something like that, to where they'll cover that 7.5. So I'm going to take the Jets. That'll be my first pick. Okay, plus 7.5. W is also taking the Jets, but he's taking them at, I almost feel bad for that. I should give him the extra point, but he got in around plus 6.5. So I'll give it to Dub and give him a plus 7.5. Yeah, since we're going based on the same game. Yeah. You got to go with it, I think. That's pretty good value. Clearly, Vegas not giving the Jets any wiggle room in this game. And I understand. I understand why. I get it. But that's the way the Jets move the ball, you have to think they have a chance. And his defense, they have to get better. They have to do a little bit more in this game. It wasn't necessarily on sauce last week, but it has to, be better. And they have to, they can't be letting, the Bills run up to score 35, 40 points, which, part of me thinks that, could happen here, but we'll see. W's second pick, Patriots, plus 1.5. So let's make sure I have the same line for him there. So Patriots, Dolphins, all right. Both teams 0-1, tough week for the Dolphins. Patriots, at least, were a little bit more competitive, but, more or less, struggling in their own right. 1.5 right now is ESPN bet, so that's accurate. Dub's got the same thing there. He's got Pats 1.5 plus 1.5, so he's taking the Patsies. I like that one. I'm not gonna pick this game. I'll leave this one to Dub there. But the Dolphins looked absolutely terrible. Okay, absolutely terrible. Tua, I don't understand. I don't have much faith in him. It could be because of coaching in Miami. It really could come down to that. I'm not so sure if this young guy's got the locker room. I think he may have lost it. I don't see a lot of unity. Hill seems to be distraught, seems to be unhappy on the sidelines. There's just not a lot of cohesiveness going on, and to lay an egg the way they did against the Colts in week 1, Daniel Jones at the helm, they just weren't even competitive. The Colts are way better, way better than the Dolphins, and that's saying a lot. It's saying a lot, about the Dolphins. The Dolphins, Colts, I don't know if they're lucky to make the playoffs. I think they'll have a decent year. I don't know if they'll make the playoffs. It's not a guarantee. But they didn't look the Dolphins didn't look competitive against them by any means. You know, so I don't know how I can expect the same here in this game in week 2 against the Patriots. Now, they are at home. You know, I don't know if that means anything. I don't know if there's necessarily a home field advantage here. Probably not. You know, but let's see it. You know, let's see if Miami could find a way to win. It's essentially a pick 'em game. They're giving Miami minus 1.5, so a little faith in them. That's saying a lot about the Patriots. You know, so I'll give it. Dub likes the Patriots here, I kind of agree with him. I kind of want to join them again. I'm gonna hold my pick until later for that one. I'm not gonna quite jump on that bandwagon there. Third game that Dubs got is the 49ers minus 3.5. Okay, he's got a couple of roadies here. 49ers on the road now. This is without Brock Purdy. Okay. It's going to be interesting to see what happens there. Okay, so he's going to be out. He's missing a couple of weeks. So, will 49ers do well against Rattler? That is the question. All right, I'm just getting some stuff here for you. Pulling up the numbers. All right, so 49ers minus 7.5. Okay. Not bad. I mean, that's pretty good without your starting quarterback. I mean, that's pretty. Oh, again with this freaking song, I keep on forgetting to change it. There you go. All right. Mac Jones. Anybody? You know, old, New England quarterback, do we really have the faith in him to get it done? San Francisco, minus 7.5. Listen, the Saints, they're not good either. You know, terrible week 1 for them. A lot of question marks about Rattler and whether or not he's going to be, even remotely competent. You know, Saints, Dolphins, They might be competing. They might be competing for worst in the league. Who knows? I didn't think I'd have the Dolphins in that light, but they're up there. So they're still giving 49ers 7.5 here. I think Dubs got him. What's that number? He's got him at minus 3.5. 49ers. So it's interesting. I guess he doesn't have the most recent numbers, but 49ers still giving minus 7.5. Oh, hold on. That was the open. Excuse me. The spread is now minus 3.5. That's right, correctly. Have I been looking at it the other way before? Oh no, I gotta double back now. I gotta check the Jets. What was the Jets line? Let's see. Okay, Jets is now plus 6.5. So he had. Okay, Dubby had it. Dubby had it right. I was wrong the whole time. So he had the updated lines. Okay. So it was plus 6.5. Patriots, I guess, remain at that plus 1.5. So I apologize to the viewers out there. I was looking at the opening line compared to where it was at. Okay, so no movement with the Patriots. Dolphins opening line, but we're gonna have movement. Look at that opening. That minus 7.5 to minus 3.5. It's a 4-point difference for Brock Purdy. So that tells you right there. With that being said, Mac Jones at the helm. W still likes the 49ers minus 3.5. Okay, so he's picking Mac Jones to find a way win some football. All right, here on Sunday. So got a lot of faith in him there. That's a 1 p.m. start on Sunday. And for Dub's last pick, all right, I think some of you are gonna like this one. All right, because of course, if you know anything about my co-host W. Dubois, loves shitting on the Giants just a little bit whenever you get the chance to. Okay, Dallas Cowboys, New York Giants, Sunday on Fox, 1 p.m. Eastern. Should be a good one. Two teams obviously coming off a loss. who's going to get right? Who's going to get right here? It's probably not the Giants. All right, probably not the Giants at all. Dak Prescott has a 13-game win streak against the Giants. Will that continue? Okay, I believe that's at home. Or is it? Yeah, I must just leave that to 13-game win streak against the Giants in general. Spread. Opening spread was -3.5. It is now -5.5. It has moved 2 points for the Giants. I got to find out why necessarily. Any noticeable injuries for the Giants there. You got obvious Andrew Thomas, questionable. Nunez Roach is questionable. Wan'Dale Robinson, ankle questionable. Okay. So you got some news there. Obviously, McFadden out since October 9th. Yeah. And Jones Jr. So nothing huge there. So interesting. You know, the lines moved too. I don't know if that's just coming a lot of money down on Dallas here. But let's see what Dub had. Just to be accurate about that, Dub had -5.5, so he's got the proper line right now. He's picking Dallas. Again, I don't know. I don't know if that's one that I'm also taking. It's not bad, though. It's really not bad. I almost want to go on the opposite end of that just for the sake of it, to have a little faith in the Giants, but I don't have any faith in Russell Wilson. They didn't look good in week 1 either, man. I just, how could you have some faith for this team? You thought this would start them on a new foot. You thought that it would just go in a different direction, and it just really hasn't. And who knows? We could be wrong. It could be a huge overreaction to get week 1, but maybe not. Maybe they just continue to do what they've been doing, and get smacked around out of it. I don't know. Cowboys look good on offense. I think they're gonna have their question marks defensively again. How could they be better after the Parsons trade defensively? We'll see. I don't know. I didn't see that in week 1 for them, against the Eagles. So we'll see. But there you go. There's Dub's pick. So he's got the Jets +6.5. Pats +1.5, 49ers -3.5, Cowboys -5.5. Okay, so my week 2 picks. All right, I already told you before that I'm riding Dubby with that +6.5 for the Jetsies. Okay, I'm riding him. I rode with him I think twice last week. I'm gonna ride with him again here. I like the Jets, and I'm not just being a homer. I think they could hang around. They could cover that spread. I don't think they win this game, no. I'm gonna say it. I don't want to be let down again. I think the Jets start 0-2. I think they still have a productive year and still get some wins in this schedule, but it's a tough start for them. It's a tough games right out the gate. I thought the Pittsburgh game was winnable. They should have won that game. They showed you they should have won that game. So theoretically, we should be looking at a 1-1 record for them right now after this week 2 loss that I'm predicting against the Bills. But we'll see. Who else do I like? Let's run down some of the games for week 2. Let's see what Maddie's picks are looking like. I would have liked Green Bay in Washington. I would have liked that one a lot, but obviously a little too late for you guys in terms of picking that one. All right, Bengals, Jaguars. I like this one. 2 1-0 teams coming off a good week 1 for both of them. A little shaky, but they found a way to get it done in both of their games. All right, -3.5 at home, Cincinnati Bengals. The line opened up that way. It stayed that way. Okay. Knee jerk. I just like the Bengals here. I think they're going to take care of business. I'm not convinced on the Jaguars right now. I think the Bengals are a much better team. Let me see it. Let me see something from Jacksonville. Let them prove it to me in this game. The over/under 48.5. I think you can see a little scoring in this game. I kind of like that. Go with the over if you want to go with the over. But I got to see it from Jacksonville. I'm not convinced from Trevor Lawrence. All right, Burrow didn't necessarily have an outstanding performance in week 1. Maybe he gets a little bit right, gets the offense really moving in this game. Let's see if Jacksonville defense can hold them off. I don't believe they can. Let's see. I like it. -3.5. I'm going Cincinnati. All right. That is my second pick. Just writing it down for y'all. Or for me, actually, not for y'all. Because I got to remember it. Otherwise, I got to, with my memory, I got to play back the episode and check it out. So that's game, another 1 o'clock game for you. All right. Let's try to maybe not pick all the 1 o'clock games. Got Baltimore, Cleveland, 1 o'clock. Obviously, we mentioned Jets, Buffalo, Miami, New England. All right. 49ers, the Saints, Giants, Dallas. Oh, man. Do I really want to go with the... I feel like opposing dub on the Giants there, but I don't know, man. I just don't... I don't feel it. I don't feel it. Is Russell Wilson really gonna pull out some heroic in Dallas? I don't smell it. Maybe because it's in Dallas. I just know. I still don't feel it. But they're giving them 5.5. Could I see the Giants keeping it interesting? And just covering? I don't see them winning. I don't. Maybe lose by a field goal? Alright. I'm going with it. I'm going with it. Because Dub's picking the Cowboys. I like it. Plus, I've convinced myself in my head. You've seen it right here live. Or in post. 5.5 Giants. Alright, plus 5.5 against the Cowboys. Alright, I think they're going to lose the game. But I think they'll stick around. Maybe it's not the shootout we all expected. Maybe it is, and they still lose by a field goal. But Cowboys get their first win of the year. Albeit a tight one, But then Giants, I guess, Giants fans gives you a little hope, right? Oh, they were in it? Not really. It's just going to be as depressing come Monday when you're talking about it. And you're reminiscing about the tough loss. All right. Another good. This one's a good one. And I think I have to pick it just on the matchup. Kansas City, Philadelphia. All right. Now, Kansas City, tough way to open up the year. A lot of question marks for them. Eagles, all right, kind of, not the greatest of games, but they took care of business, do what they had to do. The line right now, -1.5. All right, so essentially, it's a pick'em game. Kansas City at home. A lot of question marks, though, man. I don't know. I think the Kansas City, I think some of the power in that offense is gone. I think they have a lot of question marks at that wide receiving core. Kelsey looked pretty good, I thought, in week 1. I'm okay with his week 1 performance, but the rest of the question mark is coming from that receiving core. I don't know if I have a lot of faith in them to get it going here. This is going to be a tough loss for Kansas City, an eye-opening loss in Kansas City. I think Philadelphia, the defending champs, opening up 2-0. Okay? And they find a way to win. Could be tight. I don't necessarily see them blowing away, but I could see a scenario in which, Philly kind of smacks them around a little bit. But either way, I like the spread. They're definitely winning by a field goal or more. I'd be surprised. I'd be surprised if they just win by 1. They're giving you plus 1.5 for Kansas City, so I like the -1.5 for Phil. I think they'll win by 2 or more for sure. And that's it. That's my picks for week 2. Like I said, week 1 I won 2 out of 4. W won 1 out of 4, so I'm up just by 1 game after week 1. So tight. Hopefully. We only picked 1 same game here in this week. So, a lot of potential for to go either way here. So, hopefully I could gain some distance on him after week 2. Okay. All right, that's enough. I think we can do enough there from the football music. Not too bad, not too shabby. There's the football segment of this week. Now, just to recap a little bit again, there are some other games that we didn't even talk about. We'll get into it the following week. I'll get on here. I'll talk about it. We'll recap some of the matchups. I don't have too much time because I do have to get on with my day, and I did want to talk about the Mets matchup today. Obviously, I will be in the building for the Metsies tonight. Can't wait. Gonna be a lot of fun. All right. Jacob deGrom returns to Citi Field, and I just couldn't be more excited to see him and his return. It's been forever. Let me check. The last time that deGrom pitched at Citi Field. I'm forgetting. Yeah, I did. It was September 18th, 2022. Yeah. Was it September? That was the last one for him? No. Was that the last one? Why am I thinking that, Was it that game that I went to? Because I know I went to, I believe I did go to that game in 22. Yeah. I'm forgetting because I know I went to, his last playoff performance at Citi Field as well. But it's been that long, apparently. Back in 22. So 3 years since his return. Obviously, went over to Texas, dealt with some injury issues. Texas ended up winning the World Series while he's not even active. Now he's in it, having a great year, pitching extremely well. He's kind of resigned to being a 5-6 inning, type pitcher, but the numbers are, just overall spectacular for him. 2.78 on the year for him in terms of the ERA. The WHIP under 1. I mean, that's just phenomenal. 0.93. 11-7 record. Obviously, we don't hold too much value in the record anymore, but it's still a winning record. Texas offense is not what it used to be. The pitching has been lights out over for Texas. It kept them relevant this season. I forget where they was ranking, but they're definitely high up there in the rankings for Texas. And 27 games played. I mean, he's probably going to come out almost just shy of 30. He might get 30. I don't think he'll get it now. Maybe he does. Maybe 29. So this will be his 28th start tonight. Maybe he just gets 30 starts on the year, which is amazing for deGrom because you look back, the last time he made 30 starts was back in 2019 with the Mets. Just 32 starts back then. 2.43 ERA back then. So, the year before that, 2018, 32 starts. 2017, 31 starts. And he didn't have 30 starts in 2016. 2015, the World Series run had 30 starts that year as well. So, him, returning to a 30-start year, doing what he's doing has just been phenomenal. The WHIP, almost the greatest of all time outside of that 2021 season, which, 15 games played. Really not too much stock in there. It was the COVID times. This is really a true WHIP for him. One of the best he's ever had. You look back to that 2018 season, probably his best season when he had the 1.70 ERA. There you go. This is a huge one for him. Having a big year, and then now, coming in here, going up against young Jonah Tong, who is the Mets, phenom. You're seeing all these young pitchers come up through the system now for the Mets. Noah McLean, Sproat, Tong. It reminds you of those times with the Mets of Wheeler and Syndergaard and Matt Harvey and later Steven Matz and all them, just those dominant times, those dominant pitching times, and it's not quite the same though, because you're seeing a lot of the veteran pitching struggle right now with the Mets, but you're seeing some bit of hope, but it's not quite resonating the same way as the Mets are in the midst of a collapse as we speak right now. Just some of the numbers are staggering. For Jonah Tong, kind of had a ho-hum, second outing against the Reds. He did end up going 6 innings, but gave up 4 earned, 3 home runs. He didn't give up any home runs in his first start. He got knocked around. And Cincinnati, that ball flies, so I understand a little, but 3 home runs, 4 walks, 6 Ks. The walks are an issue for sure. Mets, if you're looking at the numbers, they rank top, I think, 3, or it's definitely top 5 in terms of walks on the season. That's not good. They've always been a team that has had a high walk rate. Right now, in terms of ERA, they're slightly above average, but that's not saying a lot because they were so good in the first half of the season compared to how bad they were here in the second half. I'll take a look at some numbers. Since June 13th, the Mets have been 31-47. Okay, 31-47. June 12th was the last time the Mets were in first place. They were, I think, almost 15 games over. I think it was 15 games over 500 at that time. They went on this ridiculous losing streak. I think they notched off 7 straight losses. Absolutely terrible. 7 straight losses. It was just loss after loss after loss for them. Not good. Not good. In so many ways. And in large part due to this starting pitching. The bullpen has been bad. All the acquisitions they made at the trade deadline, you'll talk about Stearns and him being a genius the whole 9. This deadline was not a good move, and I praised it. I praised it when it happened. It was easy to do so. You're bringing Rogers, you're bringing Helsley. These are 2 top-notch guys at the deadline in terms of pitching arms out of the bullpen and to bolster your bullpen, and both of them have been terrible. Brian Helsley especially. The guy, you just can't buy it out. That ERA is out astronomical since coming over to the Mets. I'll give it to you guys. Let me find it real quick. It's just unacceptable what has transpired, and now we go into a huge matchup against the Rangers, a series in which the Rangers are fighting for their playoff life as well, but they're in even a worse position. They're not there. They're I believe a game and a half out. I'll pull it up for you. Hold on. Let me just get the Ryan Helsley ERA. So since coming over to the Mets, okay, the ERA in 11 to 14 appearances is floated around the 10.3 to 11 range. And that's just a realistic number. It is absurd. What he has done. It's just been bad. It's just been bad. Okay. Real quick. Forgot what else. Oh, man. I'm trying to forget. Not sure what else I was just referring to, what of the path that I was going down in regards to that. But again, this bullpen has been a huge problem. These acquisitions at the deadline, Helsley, Rogers, not getting it done. The starting pitching can't go, past 5-6 innings. Mendoza, questionable to say the least, in terms of his ability to coach. He's made some questionable moves, some positional adjustments that, have cost them. Just last night against the Phillies, McNeil playing center field, misplays the ball, takes 3 steps inward when he really should have been taking 3 steps back, and you see one go over his head, and it cost the Mets, the lead, and just, just downward spiral from there. Any move he seems to make out of the bullpen seems to backfire. So issues there as well. Outside of Diaz, you really don't know who to go to because, like I said, he's even with Soto, he's been shaky at times out of the bullpen. So you really don't have much faith there. Senga gets sent down to AAA. I don't know if it's mechanical, it's mental, it's both, it's injury related. Who knows at this point? His ERA over the last 2 months has been so inflated, they had no choice but to send him down. It's what spurred the movement to bring up McLean, to bring up Tong, and now Sproat. And hopefully these kids, they're put into such a rough position right now at this point of the year. You're asking them, you're throwing them right into a playoff race in the middle of September and hoping to God that they can just hold on and be effective. I mean, tonight, for Tong, Friday Night Lights, his first outing was Friday night. Big spot for them. Albeit, Mets offense went crazy, put up, was 19 in that game. It was just absurd. One of the greatest games I've ever attended. And good to see the kid do his thing. But, will that be the same story tonight? This could go badly for the Mets. I think that, Mets got to find a way to smack DeGrom around a little bit. Okay, that's got to happen. Okay, as much as I, want to see him, I'd like to see the Mets win. And I'd like to see the Mets put up some runs against the good old DeGrom, all right? 37-year-old DeGrom at Citi Field. Now let's get it done now, all right? I'm going to be wearing a DeGrom jersey, okay? I'm pretty sure I am, at least. It's going to be a little chilly. I might wear the windbreaker, so I don't know. But, I want to see, all right, I want to see some action out there, man. I want to see, these guys getting it done. They should. There's no reason they shouldn't. This is a winnable series. They should win 2 out of 3. If they don't, we're in trouble. I'll say that much. We're toast. At this point, is that what I wanted to pull up the standings real quick? That's what I said I wanted to do before. I got like 50 million tabs open right now. Let's see here. There you go. So I got the standings for you. Let me, I'll just show everybody else on screen. All right. So the Mets right now, 11 games out at this point against the Phillies after the 4-game sweep of the Phillies. Credit to the Philadelphia Phillies. I believe the magic number for them after last night is now 6. Only 15 games to go. No, it could even less now, right? If there's 15 games to go for them, you got, it's got to be less. Unless there's not. The math ain't mathing real quick in my head. Yeah, 147, so 3. Yeah, there's 15 games to go. Mets are 11 games out, so it should be 4, right? So they jumped them that much, so it's 4 now to clinch the division. I don't think the magic number they were talking about is probably 6 to clinch the playoff berth. The division is down to 4, so, hey. Wait, that wouldn't make any sense. Now I'm looking. It should be even less. It should be 4. The clinch to playoff berth should be even less. Either way, it ain't happening. My man might not be mathing right now, but congrats to the Philadelphia Phillies. The division is yours. At this point, I'm just hoping the Mets can find a way to squeak in. All right, because it just doesn't seem likely at this point. It's been such of a letdown since June They were one of the best teams prior to June 13th, and they've become just a nothing team here in this race, and it's a shame. It's like they're almost playing like they are trying not, trying not to lose. Like they're not being aggressive about it. It's like they're just trying to find a way to get into the postseason. And you got teams like the Giants, you got teams like the Reds. Shit, I mean, it's 15 games out, but you could even throw the Diamondbacks and the Cardinals in it. I've seen crazier things, like that. That's on the table. They are in, on the table for finding a way to get in here. Mets only 1.5 up now of the Giants and the Reds. You just seen, them battle the Reds and kind of, flop there. They've lost 6 in a row. This is a series that they got to get right. This is a series that they have to get right against Texas. Texas, in their own right, mentioned it before, 2 games out going into this series. They've won 7-3 in their last 10. They're on a 4-game win streak. You got DeGrom. This team's feeling right. They're 7 games over 500. They're trying to find a way in. Houston, in trouble. In trouble. Division on the line for Houston right now, okay? The Mariners, with a big walk-off win last night against the Angels, they are now tied for first. All right, they are now in the conversation. Mariners, here come the Mariners all of a sudden. They've won 6 straight. So, 15 games to go. Put up or shut up. This is the time right now. We look at some of the other divisions. Detroit has locked it up. Phillies have locked it up. Detroit's 8.5 game lead over the Guardians, but it's locked. American League East is that only division right now in the American League that is questionable. Blue Jays, they seem like they're just holding on for dear life at this point. Not necessarily their greatest ball. Yankees are coming. I feel like they're coming. They're trying, at least. I'll pull up the schedule for the Yanks. But this is a big spot for them. They're just 3 games back. Red Sox, 3.5. Obviously, we spoke about, the loss of Roman Anthony. I think because of the loss of Roman Anthony, it's tough. I just don't know if they have enough in them. But, hey, at 3.5, you're mathematically in it. I think the focus for Red Sox, realistically, is the wild card. But it's anybody's, right? It's anybody's in that sense either. You got to be careful because that could swing in a big way right now as well. Cleveland and Texas knocking on the door. Kansas City is really on the outside looking in with that 5. All right. We'll look over both the Mets and Yankees schedule to close out the show and talk about that and see what these two teams, what it's going to look like for them to finish out the season strong and actually, not only make the playoffs, but put themselves in a good position in the playoffs here, or at least the start of the playoffs. Okay. So I'll pull it up here as well. So for the Mets, like I said, Texas tonight, 7:10, and 4:10 on Saturday, 1:40 on Sunday. So there's a series that I think they have to win 2 out of 3, right? It's just, to me, they have to, solidify that. You don't win 2 out of 3 here. I don't know what you do. It's got to be done. San Diego, it's also a very winnable series, in my opinion. the schedule for them is relatively soft, but there's some sneaky teams like San Diego. The Cubs, obviously, the hardest opponent in this schedule and the remainder of the schedule. You got the Nationals, who always find a way to fight the Mets hard, and the Marlins too. So those are two teams, divisional teams that you got to get a little scared of. But right here, right off the bat, 2 out of 3 against Texas. All right, let's say, you fall and you go 1 out of 2 against San Diego. So you go 3-3 over the next 6. Okay, it's 500 ball. You need, can we have a good series against Washington, maybe? Can we maybe sweep them at the end of the year here? Or are we, potentially going to lose 2 out of 3, get swept, At least I would like to see a scenario in which they win 2 out of 3 there. Then the Cubs, same thing. Now, like that, I don't know. It's tight right now. Cubs are fighting. Cubs are playing. Cubs are jockeying for position. Those are not going to be throwaway games. Let me just check, But let me just check real quick. The Cubbies are, right there in the thick of it as well. So, obviously the Brewers are ahead of them. This is not necessarily just a throwaway series at that point of the year. I mean, maybe it is. Maybe with 6 games out, they might be positioning themselves saying, hey, we're not going to win the division. Hey, we're pretty up right now on the wild card. Padres, unless the Padres gain some ground on, the Cubs, then maybe, it's going to be just a hard-fought series. Probably will be, right? 6 games out, facing the Mets. And let me just check real quick. Where is that game? That's in Chicago. So, hell yeah. So, San Diego keeps things interesting here. You can damn well believe that the Cubs are going to be fighting hard come that last week of September. All right? So that's not an easy series for them. It's not an easy series, for the Mets next week against San Diego. Those are the 2 teams, really. San Diego and the Cubs, those are 2 series I worry about, or at least you would think you should worry about. I think Washington and Miami are another 2 series here to close out the year that, as a Met fan, you got to worry about it well. These are divisional rivals who are not fighting for much fight for anything at this point, who are trying to play spoiler. They can see an opportunity, especially Miami at the end of the year to close it out. Tough. And the Mets to get the 6 games on the road to close out the year, also tough. So, we'll see. We'll see how they respond. It comes down to the pitching because this offense has been so good. And I think it gets overlooked at times. I think it's easily criticized at times. But, they're getting it done. There's some holes, obviously. Alvarez shouldn't even be out there at this point, dealing with his hand injuries. There's definitely some holes in this lineup. Lindor's gone cold again. Did get a hit last night. Soto's been extremely hot. Pete doing his thing. Nimmo doing his thing. Vientos, I would say, has been right. Mullins, you get no contribution from him. We'll see. It's got to start tonight. We got to start believing, because this is it. This is what you live for. This is what, as a fan you live for, you want to see, you get excited about. Here we are, man. Playoff baseball in September. You have to love it. I know it hurts after getting swept by the Phillies, not even really contending in this damn series. Looking just ugly the past 2 nights against Yohan Duran and just, looking lifeless. This Mets team, they're not the team of 2024. They're just not. When they're trailing going into the 8th inning, 9th inning, they never come back. They're not the comeback team of the past. They're just not that type of team, which is why I have my concerns going into the playoffs. But hopefully, that changes somewhere in the next 15 games. And they could get right at the right time. And we'll see. It starts tonight against DeGrom at Citi Field. Jonathan, hopefully, we can get things going. All right. Real quick, I do have to get out of here. Gotta go. Gotta get on a day. Gotta go for a run. And gotta get ready for this Mets game. It's gonna be wild. Gotta get down there. I want to leave my house around like 5:30 at least, so I gotta squeeze in some things before I get out. Wait, my daughter just got out of school. I want to call my oldest. Got a lot going on. All right, Yankees schedule. Here it is. Did that work? What happened? Okay, beautiful. Look, I'm kind of in the way there a little bit. I'll scroll it up for you. No, I didn't realize I was probably blocking a lot of that before too. Okay. I don't want that. Get that out of the way. Jesus. All right. So, big series coming again up against the Sox. Now, this is a chance for the Sox to get right. And you listen, this is right for them too. It's big time playoff baseball. Do they have, is it 15 or 16 games? Is it 3, 6, 10, 13? Yeah, 16 games for the Yankees. So some teams got 16 games left. Mets got 15. Yankees with the 16 games left on the year. So it starts with 3. And actually, they're going on the road a lot here. It's a big road stretch. Boston, Minnesota, and then the Orioles. So obviously, this Boston series is going to be the tough one. You know, Minnesota, Orioles. All right, that one you can shake off. Hopefully, that's get some good wins, or at least stay 500 or above 500. It's going to be a lot to be on the road for 10 straight games, no breaks in between until the 22nd, to where you finish out the season 6 at home against the White Sox and Orioles. Orioles again. So schedule for the Yankees looking pretty good, man. It's really right here against Boston. You want to win these games, and I hope you can just run off a nice little win streak to end the year and potentially catch Toronto. And, it's nice to not have games against Toronto, although maybe you're looking at it the other way because now you're relying on Toronto lose some games. But the schedule, relatively soft for the Yankees here to close out the year. I got to be happy with that if I'm the Yankee fan. And, hopefully, they find a way. You're 3 games out right now, right? You find a way to creep into the postseason, potentially as a divisional winner. If not, okay, you get there in the wild card. You at least solidify that top wild card spot and improve your chances going forward. I like this kid, Cam Schlittler. Was great last night. I believe I had his, where's the stats right here? I have his stats. After last night's match, 3.05 ERA now for the kid. That was his 11th start on the year. 6 innings, 5 hits, 1 earned. Just great. Only 2 walks, 7 Ks, man. Just electric stuff. That curveball is nice. He got a good repertoire. Got a pretty good cutter there, 4-seam curveball. Like it. I like his stuff, man. Just looks poised. Looks like the type of pitcher they need. I can't believe it, going into the playoffs here, into this playoff run for the Yankees. Pitching is not the concern I have. Not at least starting pitching is not the concern I have. Out of the bullpen, I still got some issues there. Obviously, I don't know where you're going to get the reliable arm out of the bullpen, and that's going to be huge come playoff time. I think the Yankees are going to have to rely on their starters a lot, which still could be a huge concern because oftentimes the playoffs now just becomes a bullpen game. But with this kid Cam at the helm, they have a chance, man. They have a chance. And listen, Yankees offense, it's doom or gloom. If they're hitting home runs, they're going to win ball games. It's just proven, That's how they do their offense. They don't do the small ball. You like to see a little bit of offense production from Caballero. Obviously, this whole Volpe thing, they're trying to figure him out. They're trying to still work him in. I like to see that switching it up a little bit here We'll see. Do they stick with that? I don't know. But it's doom and gloom with this Yankee offense, and you hope that bullpen can you stitch it together and do what they need to do come playoff time. I think you could be high on the Yankees going in, man. I think they're riding a bit of a high right now. They got Trump in the building last night, big ovation. He visits the clubhouse, the whole nine. I think the Yankees are feeling good. At least they're feeling much better than the Mets fans are right now, because they're very optimistic, as opposed to the Met fan where it's just kind of gotten depressing at this point, and we feel like this could be a repeat of the collapse, back in 2007. Like it's feeling like that, all of a sudden again. I hope not. I really hope not, as we got 15 games to go, but it's possible. So Yankees, 16 games to go. Pretty easy schedule. It should put them in very good position, but against tonight, against Boston, they have to find a way. Okay, to find a way to beat Boston. Maybe win 2 out of 3, even sweep them. Wouldn't that be great? Oh, of course I get hiccups at this time. Wouldn't that be a great way to really, solidify this season for them? Sweep Boston, close the door on Toronto, steal first place, head into the postseason strong. I think that's on the table for the Yankees. Definitely not on the table for the Mets anymore, as the Phillies, like I said, they're going to be the sole owners of this division, this National League East. But hopefully they can find a way to win tonight, get the momentum right, and move forward and hold on to that playoff position in the wild card. All right, everybody. Great show today. Episode 36 of Epis Sports. A lot of talk, a lot of football, a lot of baseball. Early on in the show, a lot of talk about Charlie Kirk and mass shootings that have been going on. Just the state of politics in general. I give my take on Kirk, the whole Kirk shooting. We talk about the breaking news about reporting earlier, prior to the show, that the suspect in the Charlie Kirk shooting, Tyler Robinson, has been detained. So they do have it. I'm sure we'll read up more details about him going forward and the whole situation. But do go and play back if you're just catching with us now here live. Again, we are live recording on September 12th, now 3:03 Eastern Time, as the show's coming to a close. So if you're watching in post, we appreciate you. Leave a message in the comments. Let me know how you like the show, if you liked the show, if you didn't like the show, whatever. If there's something you did like about it, let us know in the comments. We'll talk about it some more. If there's something you'd like us to talk about in future shows, please let me know. Reach out to me on all the social media pages. If you'd like to join in on one of the shows, you'd like to interact, be a guest speaker, please DM me. I'm available on all social platforms. You can reach me easily on Instagram, and I'll try to get you on. Again, thank you for all the support. All right, please keep showing up. Like, follow, comment, subscribe, the whole nine. All right. And until next time. All right, I will definitely be back for Mental Mondays with Epis this week. Maybe I get another sports in show. I probably will. I'm probably going to want to talk a little bit more sports. We'll see how my Mets do. Maybe I'll recap tomorrow what the hell happened here at Citi Field last night. I'm already feeling slightly negative about it. I don't know. I got to get that out of me. I got to get the juju out of me. Let's get it out. All right, good vibes, good energy. Let's manifest it. All right, everybody, have a beautiful weekend. Happy Football Friday. Let's go Mets. All right, and keep showing up.
Wake up! You can't remember where it was. Has this dream stopped?
I've been known to play mine to a T, but it's time for me to lead, picking dirt right out the cleats. Steep path, roadblocks in the streets, trying to knock me off my feet, cause the devil never sleeps. So I don't sleep too, and trying to breach safes that I didn't have the keys to. We all been victims of trauma we ain't agreed to, but the sun comes after, starting up a new chapter.
Isn't it lovely? I ain't looking back and focus on what's in front of me. Everybody days a number, but I'm still here luckily. I know that God got me, so I'm in good company.
All right, everybody, have a beautiful
Isn't it
weekend.
lovely?
Until next time, keep showing up.